I'm going to talk about the risks, the brief history of automotive cybersecurity and where we're at and what could go wrong, how much power the attackers can have, what can they do in our life in terms of creating havoc. At the same time, what are the opportunities as researchers and entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, the students we have as a listener, what are the opportunities you have to make your millions and billions out of this $5.1 billion industry?
Welcome to talk.cybercni.fr.
Bienvenue.
Welcome to Talk Cyber CNI. Today already the 8th edition. So as usual, we have for your monthly speaker series the presentations in LinkedIn and YouTube, and we have, as usual, Slido for the questions. And I'll briefly explain you how that works. So on the left side, you see the QR code for the Slido, which you can scan with your smartphone, and you also see the URL, which is slido.com, and the code for today is CyberCNI 8, because it's the 8th edition of your monthly speaker series. As usual, please ask lots of questions in there. Join as a second channel because you can upload questions and download questions, and you can get inspired what your fellow viewers, watchers, what they are asking, what the discussion is. As usual, the format will be about 1 hour of presentation, and then afterwards we'll have a good 30 minutes for your questions, for some more discussion. So please ask a lot of questions. I'm sure that Hasan is very interesting answers. And yeah, so this is about the questions. And let me go back to that one here. Yeah, so welcome to today's talk. In today's talk, we have, as you already heard in the trailer at the beginning, automotive cybersecurity, how to make millions in a 5.1 billion industry. And I'm very happy to welcome Hasan Akram today as a speaker. And it's a special pleasure to welcome Hasan today because he's doing a lot of things on the internet. So he's regularly on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and so on. And therefore, I'm especially looking forward to the talk because he's a very experienced speaker and because he's really an expert in the field of automotive cyber security. So Hasan is a computer scientist, serial entrepreneur, and he's also the host of the podcast Autonomous Vehicle Safety and Security. He is specialized in embedded security and machine learning, and he's currently working as the founding CEO of Matrickz GmbH, a company specialized in automotive software and security based in Munich. Hasan obtained his Master of Science degree in computer science from the Technical University of Darmstadt in 2008 and his PhD degree in computer science from Technische Universität München in 2013. He has successfully participated in the Harvard Leadership Program at Harvard University in 2016. He has more than 11 years of experience in automotive industry and worked for 2 of the major German automotive OEMs as an external consultant. Hasan also has published a number of peer-reviewed papers and has received the iCentric Best Paper Award in 2008. And now you know a little bit our speaker of today. And without further ado, Hasan, I'm very happy to hand over to you, and I'm looking forward to your talk. So the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you very much for the kind intro. I have enormous respect for you. I must say that you're one of the most hardworking person I've ever seen. Thank you so much for your kind words. I'm really, really honored to be here talking to your community. I'm really excited. Also, Mark told me a little bit about the community. I'm really excited to share my thoughts here. So without further ado, let's begin. So today I'm going to talk about making your millions in a $9.7 billion industry. So 9.7, as you've probably seen in the in the title that we've published, it's 5.1 billion, which is today in 2021, and it's projected to be a 9.7 billion dollar industry in 2030. So I thought about why not talk about 9.7, and it's automotive cybersecurity. I'm really excited about that. Now that's the title. The agenda, the thing that I'm going to cover today is I'm going to talk a little bit about the brief history of automotive cybersecurity and where do we stand today. And I'm going to raise some challenges that we're trying to solve. And obviously, these challenges, within these challenges, there are opportunities for you, for us. And this is how you're going to make your millions. And I'm going to give you the formula for that. So now the question is, why should you listen to me? Mark told a little bit about me, so I'm not going to go as extensive about my background. I'm going to talk a little bit about me. Why should you listen to me about this? Like this is a snippet of my LinkedIn profile. This is where I was in CeBIT, demonstrating our smart home demonstrator in eHealth scenario. And yeah, this is what I do. I do cybersecurity in the automotive industry. My company is serving like car hacking. Car hacking is what we do, and we serve in the automotive industry, automotive cybersecurity industry. I'm also the host of the podcast Autonomous Vehicle Safety and Security, and we've been featured on also various German TV channels with our car hacking and stuff. And I'm an industry insider. I am making money within the automotive cybersecurity industry, and I have 8-figure track records. So I'm not saying this in order to boost or something. However, I just want to tell you that there are a lot of fake entrepreneurs today who will tell you how to make money when they actually haven't done it themselves. So you got to be careful. So before I even spoke about this industry, I want to make sure that I do have the credibility to talk about it. What I'm going to tell you is really, really real stories from the industry, and I'm going to share that with you today. Now, before we begin to talk about where we are in the automotive cybersecurity industry, let's go back in time a little bit. I'm talking about going back in 2005. I was still a university student, 2005, 2006, 2007. And in my master's thesis, I still have this, and one of my papers that I published back then, I still have this screenshot. I think in this crowd today, many of you are too young to even recognize this. This is really the early phase of Facebook. Now, here's an interesting thing that I criticized, the entire community criticized, and this is really interesting. I want you to pay attention. This is one of the killer features of Facebook, why Facebook was so successful and really exponentially growing. Here, you could import your buddy list from your Gmail, from your GMX, from your MSN, from your Hotmail, from your ICQ, from your AOL and whatnot, giving the username and password in this field. What was happening in the background, you were giving your username and password for all these things to Facebook. Facebook was impersonating you to log in those services and importing your buddy list. And this happened at a scale of hundreds of millions. I was a computer science student. I did it. I criticized it, but I did it. Smart people, forget about your grandma. Young, smart, technically solid people also fell into this. Now that happened at a grand scheme, and we talked about, this is not going to end here. Of course, we have solved this problem with protocols like OpenID Connect, OAuth, and all those. This doesn't happen anymore. We have much smarter way to deal with third-party data exchange. But this happened really, really when it was still the time of the Wild West, but back then it was really, really rudimentary, and it happened at a massive scale. Now, you didn't need to be Nostradamus to predict Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica happened. We talked about in those, if you read those papers in those privacy conferences that we were publishing, we were criticizing such thing, and we knew that something like this is going to happen. Now, history is kind of repeating with this paradigm shift in automotive, like self-driven cars. And we're seeing such ads, such ways of promoting autonomous vehicle. And we know the danger. We know the danger. The only difference is when things went wrong, like Cambridge Analytica and so on, we lost our data, we lost our privacy, we probably lost a lot of money in some of the cases. But when things will go wrong in autonomous vehicle, in driving, people will be losing their lives. And that's what worries me. That's what keeps me up at night. And that's really the challenge that we are dealing with today. Now, I'll take you even further back in time. When I was the year I was born, when I was really 3-4 years old, there was this series on TV, Knight Rider. And Knight Rider, I was obsessed by the Knight Rider car. I even had a Knight Rider toy car. Now, a lot of those Hollywood things that we see today is becoming reality. We have self-driven cars with this gentleman that you see on the screen. His name was Michael Knight. He could communicate with his car, with his watch. There was no such thing as smartwatch back then, but there was a smartwatch-like device. And this is what we can do today. We can communicate with our vehicle, with our smartwatch. And automated parking and all those, other than the lethal weapons that this car had, pretty much everything became reality. So Hollywood does become reality at one point. And now what we're seeing recently, not that recent, but in contemporary time, what we're seeing is like Fast and Furious 8, where you see that you take control of thousands of zombie car and you can make cars rain in the city. You launch an attack. So, and we've seen that even this Hollywood scenario is becoming reality. We have seen that in 2015 when Charlie Miller and al. It was in the lab setting, conducted this remote attack on this Chrysler vehicle, which was, they shipped a patch, this was taken care, but we know that this is possible. We have conducted such experiment in our labs too. So now we know that this is possible. So this is the challenge that we have in automotive industry today. And the potential of this challenge, the magnitude of the challenge, in my opinion, is massively underestimated. It's massively underestimated. The entire cyber criminal industry's attention is somewhere else because those are easier and it is more viable for them to get some millions of ransomware when they take control of a corporation rather than cars. But the possibility is there. The genie is already out of the bottle. The possibility is there. So with this possibility, I think there is a massive underestimation of automotive cybersecurity in general. So with that, I'm going to paint the challenges, the landscape of automotive cybersecurity in 4 generations. So the problem of automotive cybersecurity started because cybersecurity, we never thought about cybersecurity when we built a car. We never thought that this would be connected. The problem of cybersecurity started when we started with connected vehicle. And connected vehicle came in several, and is still coming in several generations. The first generation, which I call the first generation of connected vehicle, is those days where your vehicle was not really connected, but you could connect your mobile device with a jack or with Bluetooth with your vehicle, and that's it. Your vehicle was connected. Theoretically, you could have been attacked. Theoretically, someone could from your cell phone, get into the CAN bus and perform an attack. So that was the first generation. The second generation is somewhat what we are today. Most of the vehicles today are connected with a back end. All your vehicles have got an IP address. You're connected with your back end. Your vehicle has an infotainment system, an OBD2 port that can be connected, or OBD2 port has also sometimes a Bluetooth interface that you can connect your vehicle to. So that's this generation 2. Generation 3 is where we're heading, and somewhat already today, is vehicle to X communication. So your vehicle will not only be connected to the back end, it will be connected and communicating with other vehicles, other entities, infrastructures, road systems, and so on. So this is generation 3. And generation 3 and beyond is autonomous vehicle, electric vehicle, where your vehicle will be taking a lot of inputs and communicating with the environment. And when it comes to environment, it goes beyond unknown. It's the unknown. So when you know something, you can take measure. But the environment is so complex that you can never know everything. So you cannot take all the measures. Moreover, when it's an electric vehicle, you have to connect with the charging station, and here is another attack potential. So that's generation 4 or beyond generation 3 that we're heading toward. And this is the problem landscape that we're talking about. Now, I want to emphasize that this talk, as far as today's talk is concerned, is about the market potential of this landscape. We're not talking about the back-end security. Back-end security means the infrastructure security of the OEMs or the cloud security of such an environment, because that is enterprise cybersecurity. That is not that is something not that you have to reinvent or contextualize in automotive. So this is very special, what we're talking about. This is really embedded security with connectivity and the environment that we're talking about. This is something somewhat new for the traditional cybersecurity experts. So here, I would like to summarize the challenges. Challenge number 1 that I see is cybersecurity was not historically thought about. We have the CAN protocol, controller area network, that's a fantastic protocol that we created. There is no thought about security ever. So that's out there in the vehicle, and that's going to stay for a long time. Second is the paradigm shift that we talked about. 3 revolutionary things that's happening in the automotive industry: connected vehicles, electrification of vehicles, autonomous vehicles. By the way, autonomous vehicle is an $8 trillion industry that has been estimated. So these are the paradigm shifts that's happening very fast. Third challenge that I see: cars that are already built, that are already out there. What with a CAN protocol with absolutely no security in our lab, when we open up a car and try and hack it, and we see that there is absolutely no security, no encryption, nothing. It reminds me somehow, if I think, again, you guys are too young to remember that. Those of you who studied computer science in the early 2000, in the beginning of 2000, we used to have MSN Messenger, and it was the message of MSN Messenger used to be absolutely unencrypted, and you could actually sniff whatever your friends were saying in the network very easily. That was like everybody could do that. So this is exactly where cars are today. Now, when I say today, is today's vehicle. So the vehicle that is manufactured into 2021, they are putting some encryption mechanism and all those. It's a little more sophisticated, and we have CANFD and in some cases Ethernet too. But the cars that are already out there are many of them absolutely without encryption, without any security measure, they never thought about cybersecurity. Then the point 4, is nobody wants to pay for cybersecurity or safety. Nobody wants to pay for safety. Nobody wants to pay for cybersecurity. But we want to have a secured car. We want to have a safe car. We want that to be built in the vehicle. Nobody wants to pay for it. That's another challenge. And the final challenge that I see is extreme shortage of experts. Extremely hard to find cybersecurity experts specialized in the automotive domain. Now, within these challenges that I've mentioned, there are tremendous opportunities for you. So I'm gonna tell you some of those today, and I'm gonna give you some of the ideas, some of the insights, some of the industry insights that I have, and I'm gonna share them with you. So stay with us. Now, let's go to the opportunities. So here is a snippet from a McKenzie white paper, where you can see that 2020, it was a $4.9 billion industry. By 2025, it's going to be $8.4 billion industry and $9.7 billion industry by 2030. So it's a market that it's worth investing into, be it your career or you want to build a business, whatever that is. It is a market where there's a lot of opportunity. Now, let's look at the market segments. So here, 2.4 to 3.4 are going to be process-related cybersecurity solutions. And 2 to 5.3 billion is going to be cybersecurity development-related activities, and 0.6 to 1 billion are cybersecurity hardware components, like HSM hardware security modules, or so on. Here is an interesting thing. Here is where your opportunities are, very, very evident. That in 2019 there was about almost 300,000 cybersecurity experts jobs that was unfulfilled in Europe. Statistically, globally, there are 3.5 million jobs, cybersecurity jobs, unfulfilled. And I'm not talking about only automotive cybersecurity. This is cybersecurity in general. Now, one interesting thing is these are pre-COVID numbers. COVID was not taken into consideration. I think my bet would be COVID has changed it in a way that these numbers are probably doubled or quadrupled. Now, in order to validate this, you just have to do some Google search and you will see the numbers that I'm talking about. It's massive. So this is a massive, massive opportunity for all of us. Here, I'm sharing some of the secrets. So if you want to build a business or build your career around automotive cybersecurity, let me share this secret. This is really, really, I'm not talking from any assumption or any white paper or anything. This is an industry insight that I'm sharing with you. We receive RFQs, requests for codes from OEMs, from tier ones, from chip manufacturers, and so on. And what kind of code do we receive? What are the things that you have to do in cybersecurity? Because cybersecurity is a very vast term. What is it where we have the highest opportunity, the best opportunities? So we receive RFQs around cybersecurity audit or assessments, process consulting, cybersecurity evaluation is another type of RFQ that we receive, meaning that when OEM have to decide between two kinds of chips, they want to evaluate which one has more cybersecurity properties. So they want some cybersecurity experts to evaluate that. So that is one kind of RFQs we receive. Cybersecurity engineering is practically when you're building an ECU, some engineering work embedded into that. That's the category. We receive that kind of RFQs too. And finally, cybersecurity testing. If you ask me where is the highest amount of money, I would go with cybersecurity testing. Cybersecurity engineering also, because usually this kind of package comes within a larger package, like the ECU development as a whole. And then there are some parts which are cybersecurity engineering. You have to implement the cybersecurity. So, however, there are standalone cybersecurity related tests, like, test case definition for cybersecurity in all levels of the, from vehicle to software, all levels, and then fuzz testing, penetration testing, and so on. So testing is one of the key areas. Let's look at it. Look at some more figures from the McKenzie paper. So here, as you can see, what I've just told you, the things that I'm feeling from reality, the RFQs, and McKenzie's number, they kind of resonate. McKenzie's prediction makes sense to me. As you can see, software development and testing are going to be one of the largest chunk of this entire 9.7 billion. And even here, testing is predominantly going to take a lot of markets. So software validation, software integrations, software verification in terms of cybersecurity is $1.1 to $2.9 billion. So keep that in mind. Here is another segment that you got to pay attention to, which is cybersecurity processes. So process-related activities is going to be 2.3 to 2.4 billion, and there will be a peak. I think we are somehow getting to the peak because people will have to set up the processes. That's what a lot of process consulting related RFQs that we're getting, and this is going to be 3.1 in the meantime. Now, cybersecurity solutions, the products that we are seeing in the market, and here, ironically, we're seeing massive investment in cybersecurity solutions, automotive cybersecurity solutions. We've even seen companies taken over. The famous one was reportedly the Israeli cybersecurity solution provider, product provider, Argo was bought by Continental for $500 million. I mean, we've seen many other acquisitions like that. We've seen the very first one, the very early one was S-Script bought by Robert Bosch, then Conti bought Argos, the Israeli company, and many other was followed. Many smaller ones was also acquired. So all these people, all these companies are focusing on cybersecurity solutions, where I see the cybersecurity solution market is relatively smaller compared to the process and the testing and the consulting and all those. Now, here is the thing. If you come back here and if you ask me, where would you want to invest most of your money, most of your time, most of your energy? And where do you see the highest potential? In terms of scaling, obviously it's product development, and there are a ton of product development ideas. You can develop products like a firewall. It's like reinventing the same thing with an automotive context. You can develop an intrusion detection system, and so on. There are many ideas. However, I have bootstrapped my company from 0 to multi-7-figure, and we have even had 8-figure deals. So I am more of a bootstrapper without any, and I must mention that we had no external cash injection, without any cash injection. So taking venture capital money to develop a product and for 4 years, 3 years, making absolutely no revenue is something that I can't sleep with. So I'm a total different kind of entrepreneur in that sense. And that's why I'm going to focus mostly on how do you build a company? How do you make million in offering your service? So it's a service-based company that I'm more, I have built a service-based company versus product versus company. And now that we're expanding, I would be much more comfortable investing our own money to develop a product and eventually become a product development company. And as you've seen, there are more money in the service than the product in automotive cybersecurity. And that's actually a good news, because when it comes to the success rate, your success rate as an entrepreneur is going to depend on several factors. And statistically, 95% of the startups fail. However, when you go to service-based, the probability of you failing goes down drastically. And this is what we're going to focus today. And I'm going to give you my formula for that. So you've been waiting too long for that. I know that I promised I'm going to give you how to make millions in the automotive cybersecurity industry. And you must be thinking, hey, Hasan, show us the $1 million formula. So here is the $1 million formula. Before I even go there, I want to tell you this is not a get rich quick scheme. There is no such thing. There are too many fake entrepreneurs today in the market. They're promising that you build an e-commerce business, which is absolutely automated, and then you go to Bahamas and sip your martinis. That is not reality. I dare you to make one profitable dollar with an e-commerce system that works on its own. It's a hard game. Making money has been simplified with internet and everything, but it's not easy. It's not fast. It takes time. So this is where I'm going to give you my way, the way I have done in the last 10 years, and give you the blueprint of that. And that's definitely not a quick scheme or easy scheme. It's going to be hard. That's the bad news. But the good news is it is possible. The opportunity is real, and anybody can capitalize in those opportunities. So here, again, we talked about a lot of ideas. I mean, you can build a test automation, cybersecurity test automation. I can give you tens of 100 or maybe 100 product ideas, service ideas around automotive cybersecurity. But here is one quote from Gary Vaynerchuk that I super resonate with. Ideas are nothing. Execution is the game. It's all about doing. And now I guarantee you, I don't know how many people are listening and watching, 98% of you will listen, will get entertained, and then forget about it, never implement. This has been my experience all my life. People like listening and they don't make the move. There are too less of an executors in our society. So it is all about execution. Execution is really the name of the game. No matter where you start, if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. So what I can tell you is if you try, I cannot guarantee that you'll be successful, but what I can guarantee is if you do not try, you will definitely not going to be successful. Success is not going to come to you if you do not try. So it's all about execution. I wanted to put that on the table. It's all about execution. Imagine that you want to build a $1 million company that's going to make $1 million within a year or two in automotive cybersecurity space, and you're specialized and you're going to go in testing, cybersecurity testing, pen testing, cost testing, and all kinds of cybersecurity testing. How do you start? Here is the catch. Making million and building a business is not a technical problem. It's not about IQ. It's not about how smart you are, how good you know the stuff, what was your GPA in your college, university, and how great of a student you were, how many papers you published. It's not about those. IQ has been commoditized. It has been commoditized, and it's going to be more of a community because of AI. AI is going to do a much better job than us. And I'll share one of my experience with you. I was very skeptic. This is one of the mistakes I've done as an entrepreneur. I was very skeptic with all the AI tools coming up. I was not using them enough. I was amazed how good they are. And I'm going to talk about a particular tool. It's called Conversion.ai. It's a marketing tool. So this tool is better than any copywriter, any expert marketer copywriter that I've ever seen, because this tool works on the basis of data. So what it does is imagine that you want to put a Facebook ad, right? What it does is it takes all the top converting Facebook ad, because it's got data, and gives you a title with your keywords that you've given. Let's say automotive cybersecurity testing. and it gives you a title that was highest converting based on data, and you can use that. There is no human out there, no matter how good, talented you are, who can actually have all the data to give me the best converting title. I'm just talking about one example. This tool is massive, and there are so many other tools. And what I was trying to say is your talent, your skills, your IQ, that's going to be taken over by AI. So it's not a technical problem. It's a mindset problem. So you got to work on your mindset if you want to build a business. Now, I'm going to come back to this. I want to touch base a little bit on this so that we're clear on the basics. We're not talking about making money. You guys will be able to make a lot of money. We're talking about building a business. Okay, I have written making million. I think this is where you really got me. I should have written building a business. There's a difference between making money and building a business. Every one of you will make a lot of money in your life. There is no question about it. You are, since you are in this talk, that means you are probably in Mark's student or Mark's follower. So you are in the community. You're a computer scientist probably. So you will be having your 5-bedroom house. You will be making a lot of money. You will be driving your BMW. You will have a great life. We're not talking about that. We're talking about building a business. Building a business is a total different ballgame than making a money. Like I said, try and build a business that will make $1 profitably. That is hard. That is hard. Building a business is something that where you build a system, a machine that run on its own. I have built a business which is not yet fully a business because without me, it's not going to operate fully. There are certain parts I have been able to set up the process in a way that I could make myself obsolete, but it is still not a full-fledged business that I can step out and it will go on its own. So that's what we're talking about, and that's hard. There are two skills that I vastly lacked when I started my entrepreneurship. And these are the two key skills you're going to need. Not your IQ, not your technical skill, not your GPA, not your best papers and all those. You're going to need sales skill. You got to be able to sell, and you need to lead people. These are the two key skills. And if I look back 10 years ago, I was never a salesperson. Never. I did all the school book mistakes that one could do in terms of sales. And I was never even in a sports team. I'm a musician. I'm a solo musician. I like doing, I play guitar and write Bob Dylan songs, my own version of Bob Dylan songs. I never even played in a band. I was never the captain of a sports team. I never led a team. I never had no experience in leadership. I was never a leader. So I had no leadership experience. I had no sales experience. That's actually the good news. That means if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's the good news. Now, these are the two skills you're going to need, and this is definitely not going to be a sales training or a leadership training. I'm going to give you more of a framework to get there. How do you get there? So we're going to go even one step backward before the sales and leadership, before you've started your entrepreneurship. So here is my formula for entrepreneurship. So you have to have extreme drive, desire, or motivation, whatever you want to call it. And here's the deal. Nobody can teach you. People can teach you to sell. People can teach you leadership, but nobody can teach you to be more motivated. You can't be trained to be more motivated. It has to come from within. And I'm going to tell you in the next slide what is the difference between learning a skill and attaining motivation. For motivation, you need is transformation. You cannot learn it. You need transformation. Second thing you need is you need belief. It's like a religion. I mean, building a business is so much analogical to a religion. I tell people that entrepreneurship has been my religion for the last 10 years. I've been sleeping, eating, dreaming, living entrepreneurship for the last 10 years, and this is how it is. So you got to believe in yourself. You really, really have to have this belief. Again, nobody can teach you to attain your belief in yourself. This is, again, a transformational thing. The last thing you need is perseverance, meaning there is no way to give up. You only lose when you give up. Redefining failure. Perseverance is name of the game. So these are the three things. If you can have it, you can start entrepreneurship. It is going to be very hard for you, if not impossible, if you do not have that framework before you start your entrepreneurship. So I talked about learning versus transformation, right? So here I'm gonna refer to a very interesting study, research Google did on their employees. I'm talking about Google employees, the best of the best, right? So they were trying to figure out who are their best employees and why. It turns out Google's best employees were not the top Ivy League students, were not the top graders. It was those people who went through a transformational experience in their life. And what do I mean by that? Transformational experiences can happen in one of the three ways. Again, these are this part that you're seeing. These are my theories, and transformation can happen one of those three ways. Within the extraordinary hardship that you go through and experience, sometimes life and death situation, losing your loved ones, or extremely hard situation, or extreme discipline over a long time. When I say extreme discipline over a long time, I mean decades, or transcending experiences. So all those Google employees that I'm talking about, they went through some extraordinary hardship in their life. So here is a caveat to that. If you just have an extraordinary hardship in your life, really tragic experience, doesn't mean that you're going to be transformed to something. There's a caveat to that. It is all about how you take it. There are some people who say, hey, I'm totally destroyed because of this event in my life. I don't know where to go, what to do. And there are some others who say, this is a lesson the universe gave to me, and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to bounce back. And these were the people who were the best employees of Google. So transformation is something that is not learnable. It's not learning. The difference between learning and transformation is when you learn something, you can unlearn it. There's a learning curve. If you don't do it for a long time, you unlearn it. But transformation takes your mental state at a point. You'll see the whole world. The perspective will be different. You'll see the whole world in a different way. And that's what transformation is. And you can get to higher motivation. You know, the higher it is, it's like you got to go for it as if your life depends on it, and you'll achieve anything. You will believe it, and then you will never give up because of your drive. The motivation is so much. And that's what, to me, entrepreneurship is. Now, those were like the mindset thing. And I'm going to end with some of the tactical things here. How are we doing time-wise? So I will have 7 more minutes. I'm going to give you some tactics as well. Not only the mindset issue, but believe me, mindset is far more important than the tactical things that I'm going to talk about, because these things you can learn. You will be learning these things. If I can learn sales and leadership, anything is learnable. There's no question about it. I had 0 sales skill, 0 leadership skills, and now I sell multi-million-dollar deals. I lead more than 50 people in my company. So I built several companies. So these are learnable. But the mindset is really the key. Now let's come to tactics. There are 3 things that I wish I had known 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And these are these 3 things. I wish I had understood money the way I do now. I wish I had understood leverage, the power of leverage, the way I do now. And I wish I had understood the Hollywood effect, the formula, the way I understand it now. So I'm gonna tell you all of these one by one. Let's talk about understanding money. What is it? I think there is a little bit of an issue with my my slides. I apologize for that. As you can see that the slide font just changed from my initial font size and the font type. It was from two different presentations. I tried to put them together and somehow there was some problem. I apologize for that. Now, in this slide, there is something missing, but I'm going to try and tell you what is it missing. So it is you got to somehow find out what is your hourly worth, to understand money, to make money. So some people are at the stage in the spectrum, they're making $10 an hour. Some people are making $100 an hour. Some people are making $1,000 an hour, $10,000 an hour, $100,000 an hour, and even $1 billion an hour. It goes on and on. Now, you guys, a lot of people talk about passive income these days. In my opinion, I have a very radical standpoint. There's no such thing as passive income, because you have to spend some time. Even if you have $1 billion portfolio of stock, you got to manage them. You have to spend some of your time. And this is exactly what Warren Buffett does. Probably his hours are worth billion. So you will be somewhere at somewhere here in this spectrum, $10, $100, or $1,000. So what you should do is you have to identify where you are. Let's say you are at the $100 an hour spectrum. You have to delegate all the work that you do, which is less than $100 an hour, to other people, and try to push yourself toward the higher end of the spectrum. That is essential for entrepreneurship. My coach, my business coach, Craig Ballantyne, says there's 5-letter sentence that's going to kill you. I am going to do it myself. So there's no way you can do it yourself. And this is where you have to understand money, and you got to delegate. This was the message of this slide. I apologize again for the missing information here. Understand leverage. There's several kinds of leverage. You have to leverage other people's time. You only have 24 hours in a day. You got to use other people's time. You got to have that leverage. You have to understand you have to utilize other people's money. There is no way you will be able to scale a business if you do not utilize other people's money. You have to utilize other people's money. You have to take leverage of that. You have to also, there is no way you will be able to become an expert of everything. There's always best people for every aspect, and you have to go to those people. You have to understand, you have to leverage their experience. Someone who has worked 20 years in the sales field, talk to that person for 1 hour. You will get almost the best things he got out of this 20 years. So leveraging other people's experience is so important. Leveraging other people's ideas. None of the best companies in the world, the top companies in the world, were original ideas. It was ideas about other people. Like I said, it's not about idea. It's not about you being the smartest guy. It's all about mindset. And there is nothing wrong in leveraging other people's time, money, experience, and idea. It is really the name of the game. Finally, I want to tell you the Hollywood formula. Again, this is something that I wish I started 10 years ago. Is today we live in a society that is drastically different from the time of our grandparents, let's say. In order for us to to reach out to a community, to a bunch of people, we just have to put our stuff in the internet. Probably our grandparents had to do something extraordinarily revolutionary to do such things. And this is what I call the Hollywood effect formula. What is the capital of Kim Kardashian? Billions of people knows her, and you can have almost the same leverage within 800 people within your cybersecurity, automotive cybersecurity community. You just have to put the content in the internet and show your authority. And this is superpower. You got to communicate. If you want to build a business, you got to communicate. You got to advertise. This is what I didn't do 10 years ago. You got to advertise, and advertising has never been that simple. It's not easy. People will tell you it's easy. It's not. It is simple. It is possible for people like you and me, which 20 years ago was somehow not even possible. There were gatekeepers. It was it was much more complex. Now it's simple. It is accessible, but it's not easy. Don't believe those people who's telling you Facebook ads, making money is easy. It's not easy. Reach out to people. You got to reach out to people by advertising, by communicating. You got to reach out to people. You may have the best solution in the world, but if people don't know you, it's not going to work. And another thing that I touched base a little bit is automate. Like I said, I mean, I was very skeptic about buying tools that automates business processes, automates AI kind of tools. But the other day I was talking, there are tools out there where we could actually do work of 3 full-time employees. There are tools out there in our business process. So you got to automate. Everything will be automated anyway. If you are slow in the game, you're missing out a lot. So this is what really I have gained in the last 10 years in my entrepreneurship journey. I wish someone would have told me this 10 years ago. That would have saved me a lot of hurdle, a lot of thoughts. Again, I'm coming back to Gary Vaynerchuk, the person that I really, really resonate with. Ideas are nothing. I could tell you stories about the ideas I had for many big things other people did, but that doesn't bring me any credit or anything. Nobody's interested in that. It's all about execution. So please, from this talk, if you got inspired, if you got some values, I want you to go and execute. And this is what I want you to do. If you ever get benefited from some of the things that I've told you today, I want you to write an email, and that means a lot to me. With that, I'm going to give it over to Mark to start the Q&A. Thank you so much, Mark. I've taken 2 minutes more.
Oh no, I know we started late. So yeah, thank you very much. It was a great presentation. I enjoyed it a lot. Let me just switch the pinning. Okay, so now we are both visible. Okay, great. So let me start with a question, staying a bit in the area of entrepreneurship and connecting it with cybersecurity. So 3 people that you're probably also following are Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. All the 3 go to space now. What link would you take between their space endeavors and cybersecurity?
Wow, that is an amazing question. That is an amazing question. And this is where I would say, you know, history repeats. When you do something for the first time, the last thing you think about is a space pirate, right? When people invented the internet, we didn't think about the cyber criminal industry, right? So cyber attack in this space is just a question of time. It is going to happen. But of course, this is too early to think about it because the cyber criminal industry is focusing on somewhere else, ransomware and all those. Then they'll go to automotive. Then they'll go to probably aircrafts. And then they'll go to space shuttles. They will get there. It's just, you know, we used to have pirates in our sea, right? Now we have pirates exactly in the same fashion. They want ransomware by hacking your system. And like I said, I'm not Nostradamus, but you don't have to be Nostradamus to see the future of space industry, that there will be cyber attacks in the space industry. However, I think on a side note, this is a phenomenal thing that happened. You know, these 3 gentlemen going to space is just phenomenal. And you know, for a lot of us, and for me, it was especially. It's not only when they went, especially when Elon Musk started sending rockets and talked about colonizing Mars and everything. I used to read a lot of science fiction. I never ever thought that I, as a person, could really go and live in Mars. This part of my brain was like never ever occurred to me. But when Elon Musk really started talking about it, he was sending rockets and stuff. It was kind of like a light bulb. I mean, hey, I never thought that I could really go and live in Mars, right? So that gives us a lot of hope for people like us. Maybe, Mark, you and me, we will have coffee in Mars someday.
Yes, so let's consider it. Why not? I mean, could happen, especially as there's a lot of pace. So maybe let me rebound also with that pace thing. So this, you said at the beginning that the challenge or the problem arose when the cars got connected. And when they got connected, the underlying thing is that we have over-the-air updates. We're also talking about that. And the underlying principle is that we have software-controlled things. And this bonds also a little bit with the question before with the rockets. They are also software controlled. So the rockets of Elon Musk of SpaceX, they were for the first time running with Linux, if I understood correctly. They had some Linux terminals, which even touch screen. And so this is really a fundamental change in this space industry because before, as we know from many films, like the famous one about the role of women in computer science and so on, these programs, they were developed a lot of time ago, then they were certified and so on. And this, what SpaceX is doing with the rockets is similar to what they did with the cars. So now we have like software, use commodity software, at least to parts. Would you say this increases the risks or this decreases the risks? Especially having in mind that when you use, for instance, open source, you have more eyes that are looking on it and so on.
Great question. So when you're sending a rocket to the space, and you have definitely software, one is open source. Now, the risk part is, I think this has to do with the motivation of the attacker right now. So there's always historically, I must go for full disclaimer. I have absolutely no knowledge about the cybersecurity measures that have been taken in a rocket software right now. So with that in mind, I must say that usually when we start, like MSN, started with zero cybersecurity. They unencrypted, just sending out messages, unencrypted. Everything started unencrypted. Cell phone industry started unencrypted. Nobody thought about cybersecurity. So I'm assuming they're not thinking about it. So the risk is there. The risk is there. Now, is it worth for a attacker to attack a rocket? Does he have the motivation? That is really the question. And if you, to answer your question, if you would use open source, is it more risky or not? I mean, hard to say, because have we seen less vulnerabilities in Windows than Linux? So I don't think open source necessarily make it more or less risky. It's all about measures, if you're taking on measures or not. And like I said, I have no knowledge if there's any measure or not, but I would assume there must be some measures. But at the same time, not thinking that there are space pirates like the way we have for our credit card exchange, data exchange. Yeah,
I can get that. At the same time, for consideration. So one of the reasons why I attack something is that I have a big fuss in the media. And if a rocket is exploding and afterwards it's clear that I attacked it, it would be a huge motivation. So
yeah.
And in that sort, so you were talking a lot about processes, automation, outsourcing, or like outsourcing of yourself at least. And so outsourcing and cybersecurity, what would you say is the relation between the two? Is it a good idea? When is it a good idea? What is it? And especially also in your domain where you're super knowledgeable in the car industry, how could you sketch a little bit the development? So was it at the beginning no security and then suddenly security came in? Maybe also sketching a little bit the role of standards in that ecosystem.
Great question. This is a very good question. It's worth paying attention to some of the points you made. You just said that the motivation, it will be a big thing to be able to explode a rocket. If you're the attacker, it will be a great achievement. A lot of people ask me, why would someone want to hack a car? First of all, one motivation can be stealing, but this doesn't scale. You have to steal millions of cars. That's just not very practical. But like you said, there can be political motivation, just to kill someone, all right? So motivation, there can be from any angle. The question is whether we're taking enough enough measure or not. Now, to come back to your question about, we started with no security, is outsourcing cybersecurity is a good idea or not? I don't have the data for space industry, how many suppliers there is behind a rocket, but behind one vehicle, there are, if you consider tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, there are about 3,000 companies involved. 3,000. That's a complex supply chain. There are 100 million lines of codes in a car. There was a comparison of lines of codes, and I think automotive industry was the second, right after Google. So the entire Google ecosystem has the highest number of lines of codes, and the next one is automotive, which is more than, we have more lines of codes than a rocket, than a space shuttle. So that's a complex supply chain. There has to be companies working, and that's why we standardize things. We have a new standard called ISO 21434, which also gives a guideline. How do you secure those interfaces, and who is responsible for which security? Because end of the day, in automotive, it's a liability issue. If I supply a software part or a component, then I should be liable for that, and there should be a mechanism to trace that liability. So it's a question of liability, and it's a question of cybersecurity process. So if you have to work with external companies, you have to work with external companies. It's the cybersecurity culture, the mindset. We are only human, right? Even in my company, how much of us in the beginning? I mean, now we take it very seriously because we're automotive supplier. We have to be certified. In the beginning, we knew that okay, there are risks, but it was a question of budget, right? Okay, we'll take that risk. We're not gonna start with a $250,000 enterprise security solution. We're not gonna start with that. But you need that. You know that you need it. So in the beginning, when I was in my early part of my career, when I was doing some cybersecurity project for automotive industry, this was mostly research project. I was still at the university. But back in those time, remember the Fraunhofer thing? I was actually partly also involved in Fraunhofer. My professor was the director of Fraunhofer. So I'm not going to say the name of the OEM. They had to cancel one project where they were trying to ensure privacy. This project did not. We did nice research. It didn't pass to a series production. The reason is nobody's going to pay for it. If it is a feature of I don't know, announcing where you are and sending out pictures in Facebook, just opposite of privacy, people probably will pay for it. But if it's about protecting your privacy, nobody's interested. So this where the financial challenges the automotive industry faced. It was not intentional that, hey, we know there's a tag, we're not going to do it. It was just not possible. It was not financially viable. And if there's low probability of attack and this is financially viable without taking any measure, you will do it, right? You will do it that way. It's a commercial decision.
Okay, very, very good. Thank you very much for that very interesting answer. So maybe I start in that direction. So cybersecurity, investing in cybersecurity requires awareness of the threats and of the need. And what would you say in the past years? Did the awareness rise? Do the people more have the impression that the investment pays off? Are they aware of the risks? Is everybody aware of the risks? Yeah.
It's a great question, and awareness is really the key word. I mean, you gotta bold it, underline it, and really awareness is really the word. Because the example I just gave of Facebook, it was an awareness issue. Nobody had any clue what was going on. Nobody had any clue. They were just giving their username and password. Now, even today, how many people do you think really understand the mechanism, what's happening behind the username and password? Now, we have this GDPR. We just click one button. Yes, I give you my consent. Who understands the complexity of that? So awareness, if we have more awareness than before, for sure. And the reason is not that we got cybersecurity aware for no reason. We simply have more attack. It's more of a stake. So if someone wants, it's so easy to attack, go for a ransomware attack and ask for $500,000. I now have a number, right? So this is what we used to do. My boss used to say at Fraunhofer that, hey, if we go and tell them that there is a cybersecurity problem and all those, nobody's going to pay, but we have to say risk management. Then you can put a number. Then all of a sudden there's budget for that. So it is still, I would say it is underestimated. The risk is underestimated everywhere. The risk is underestimated in the corporate world, massively underestimated in the automotive world.
Okay, very good. So the last opportunity where we did something together, you were showing a movie with cars that were crashing the street, and one important actor in cyber threats or cyber attacks today are also states. So do states already play a role in attacks against vehicles? Is there something known about it? And how do you estimate the risk in the future that a certain state will attack cars of a certain manufacturer to weaken the economy or something like that?
It's a great question. So we have seen attacks at a scale that is just not possible for any, forget about script kiddies, not even possible for professional cyber hackers and criminals. And those antivirus companies and the cybersecurity companies, they categorize that this has to be nation state. Nobody knew which nations, and we have more cases, more than one cases of such attack than more than one cases of such attack. Now, one interesting fact: in the United States, there are two kinds of weapons you need straight away your president's consent and order to launch. One is nuclear weapon, the other is cyber weapon. So cyber weapon has no boundary. It's not only cars, it can do anything. You can do anything. It's not, you can launch nuclear, you can launch a car attack, you can launch everything with cyber weapons. So cyber weapon is deadly. And I think this is like, it's massively underestimated, the power of cybersecurity for public in general. And also, I mean, we're already having cyber wars between states. And of course, we don't know that. We have only seen the tip of the iceberg, right? You know, what comes out, we have only seen. And what's going on, we have no clue. We will never know. So this is where, if, like I said, like there can be political motivation to attack your car. So that not only the motivation to financial motivation to steal your car. That's one, but there can be political motivation. So this is deadly. When Cambridge Analytica happens, we lost our data. This is where we're talking about people's lives. So that is where I think this is massively underestimated. And that's why we have the regulations like ISO 21444, UNSCE, WP29 coming up, and these are good, which will force people, even though there is no business case. The business case is, if I don't pass this regulation, I cannot put my car in the street. So that is going to force OEMs to comply with those regulations, take some measure. It's never sufficient. Cybersecurity is never sufficient. You can never say you're foolproof, because there will be always zero-day vulnerabilities, unknown attacks that you have never seen. There will always be the case. So there's no way you can say you're foolproof. The only foolproof thing is, absolute disconnectivity. A metal cage where you have absolute zero connection. That is the safest place. Also in safety, if you don't want to be hurt, don't even walk. If you walk from here to there, there is a risk. You can get injured. It's the same for cybersecurity. However, we try to mitigate as much as possible, and the mitigation will happen due to those standards. And that's why I think there's a peak in the industry right now. and hence the opportunity.
Very good. And you already switched over to safety because now we talked a lot about risks and negative aspects of the softwareization of the industry, and it also have positive effects. And I was also thinking about safety, for instance, when you think that you have an over-the-air update and then your car suddenly has the functionality to protect pedestrians better or to protect other cars and so on. So what's your opinion, or what is the opinion of the market and the industry on the positive effects towards cybersecurity of this over-the-air update softwareization of the products?
Over-the-air update is something that has to be for not only for cybersecurity. In automotive industry is the way we have been developing, especially European OEMs, German OEMs. We have a very traditional system of developing, and which was very good. I personally, and be very honest, I've said this in public many times, and I'm going to say it again, that I've criticized 5 years ago the Tesla paradigm. I was wrong. Now the European industry, the German automotive industry is going to that same kind of Tesla paradigm, right? So I mean, my reason was, one big ECU, one spot of failure and safety. We don't really have the safety data and all those, but now we're moving toward it. Now here's your question: over-the-air update is gonna be something that is not only needed for safety, it's gonna be needed for features, because we have to constantly send updates when it comes to autonomous vehicle. We will have new objects in the road. The road size, shapes, and everything will change. So we have some kind of scooters, e-scooters that we see today. 5 years ago, we didn't see those objects. So you will have to send new data, new updates all the time for features. And the best way to send a patch for cybersecurity is, for all those, is over-the-air updates, right? So over-the-air update is going to be one of the key things that we will have to use. At the same time, this is really the paradox. Over-the-air update opens up backdoors, right? There are more attack potential. So this is how you have to, in order to send patches from the attack, you have to have over-the-air update. And when you're doing over-the-air update, you are opening up more doors. That's why you have to create an infrastructure that is, it's not that you ship a vehicle and it's over. Cybersecurity has a life cycle. You have to also think about at what point I will stop sending patches. It's like a Windows machine. At one point, say it's over, we're not going to send any support anymore. So for automotive, we didn't really think about those things, that because we didn't have any updates or software updates in that massive scale. Now we have to think about those life cycle and what happens afterwards, what happens after decommissioning as well, and what will be the lifespan for that.
Very good point there. So do you think that in the near future we will have an Apple business model for cars, meaning that you have your car and it's driving for 2 years, and then afterwards it's by software getting a little bit slow and you cannot use it anymore and you have to buy a new one, or you have to buy a costly update because without the new software it's just not working? Because so far we don't have it. So far it's like we have cars and as you say, so there were not too many considerations about until when is the end of life of software for this car, and if it stays connected afterwards, you have the same problem like with an old phone. You don't have the security patches, and then you're basically open for the non-0 days anymore, but 0 days for the software stand that you have.
Great question. Now, the Apple model or the service model, if it takes place, which I think it should with autonomous vehicle, that's the only way we can probably pay for an autonomous vehicle, because it's all about money. That means car as a service now. The ownership model, 99% of the time, your car, my car, is in the garage. Nobody's using it, right? And that's why the lifespan is like 20 years. Now, if the car is 24/7 moving, then the lifespan, 2 years, is almost equivalent to 20 years. There are a lot of opportunities for the OEMs. So now we don't have to have the mechanism in a way that we need to build everything for 20 years. So save a lot of money. At the same time, within this 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, what have you, You have to make sure that things work. So that could really be a model. That could really be a model, and there is a chance that this is where the opportunity comes again. So some people are saying that if we move to a service model, then those companies who are selling 1 million car per year, probably they will send 100,000 or 50,000, because ownership, the idea of ownership will be gone. But if the car lifespan goes down that much, again, this is where the opportunity will probably remain in an equilibrium. So I agree that could well be the case, and I think that should be the case also for the environment.
Okay, very interesting, because this as for me as not at all an insider in this car industry, it's a very interesting thought, and makes also a lot of sense. Next point I want to cover is data. So you talked about machine learning as being a great tool for success. Today we have the Teslas that are collecting data from the cameras. We have the Waymo system cars that are driving around, and basically everybody who has autonomous cars is collecting data, and typically they have a monopoly on that. Do we, from an ethical consideration, need regulation there that this data for the good of humanity and security of these systems should be more open, so that all cars could benefit from better navigation and so on, especially when it goes to autonomous cars?
It's a great question. It's a great question. If the data should be available to everyone so that this is used for supporting and making the humanity better. I think this is a very good ethical standpoint, and anybody with sane mind would support it. I see the following problem, because in autonomous driving, data is really the name of the game. It's like in machine learning. Blame the data. So if I have more data, I have more advantage. So giving out this data would mean that I'm giving out my business advantage. So will that happen in real life or not? That is questionable, because we're talking about huge corporate interest here.
Good. Yeah, good. Very good statement. Thanks. Let's get a little bit more concrete again. So this famous over-the-air update, how is it secured today? Can you describe the process a little bit? I mean, not super lengthy, but just like what is happening, who is involved, are the OEMs involved, are the entities signed, are they locally checked, how are the ECUs getting it, and so on?
Yeah, there are some security mechanisms that the UNECE WP29 regulation imposes. So we have seen all the major OEMs, the RFQs that we're handling today, also the things that we're developing today, they have to comply with the UNECE WP2 regulations. So there is encryption mechanism, signature on all those things. Basic security for over-the-air update is there. So the updates usually happen from the OEM. The OEMs control that. So here's again, people who are listening, if you want to know a real technical idea and real technical opportunity for making your company, or this is where it is. So here's the problem. We've been using AutoZAR for a long time. AutoZAR is an open standard for automotive software. So it's like there's a basic software, which is the OS, and then on top there is an interface called RTE, which communicates with the application software, which is really the top part of the. You can think about an OZ layer equivalent of in automotive software. Now, AutoZAR is for embedded system, really real-time, safety-critical system. It has been very, very tied to the hardware and so on. One major problem in over-there updating with AutoZAR is it is very hard, if not impossible in most of the cases, to do differential update. That means if you do an update, you send the entire software, you flash the entire software. That's the problem, right? I mean, it's gonna be a problem. Now, AutoZAR Consortium started adaptive AutoZAR Adaptive, which is again a POSIX-based OS which is going to revolutionize the way this is going in the Tesla architecture direction. That is where differential update is also possible. And if you guys want to really know the future of automotive cybersecurity and automotive, that is adaptive AutoZar. And there are so many, since this is a POSIX and open source, there's so many security problems and opportunities for you, and you can really make a lot. So also the opportunities are, in case of classic AutoZar, we call that now classic AutoZar. One company provided the entire stack, and I think adaptive AutoZar is so vast. There will be companies just providing probably the security part, or the identity management part, or some parts of it, and you'll have your business. So there's a tremendous business opportunity there too. And yeah, to come back to your question, it is secured as part of the UNSCE WP 29 regulation.
Very good. The next keyword there that comes always to mind is quantum computing. What will be the effects of quantum computers to cars? If you have an answer to that, because it's a super open question, of course.
It is. Mark, I love your questions. So quantum computing also takes me to the crypto, right? I mean, I can't help touching the cryptocurrency world. I used to say it's game over when quantum computing is there, yeah. And now, I don't mind admitting that I was wrong at one point. So I was wrong with the Tesla architecture. I was again wrong with the crypto. I never invested in crypto, but now I'm going all in with crypto because of NFT, not because of cryptocurrency. NFT is gonna be everything. And this is what I've been telling my clients, that, hey, for example, let's say Lamborghini or Porsche. Porsche is going to make more money from their NFTs than their cars. This is going to be the future. Now, if the theory that when quantum computing is there, no more crypto, everything is apocalypse, is true, which is theoretically, you and I know that this is going to be true, then everything is crippled. Then we have to think about quantum cryptography and all those in a very different way. And I believe that the mathematicians, the cryptographic crypto mathematicians will probably have some kind of solution before we get to real quantum computing. Probably have quantum cryptography without really knowing anything about quantum cryptography. I want to say, because I believe in the ingenuity of human. There are problems, and there's not a single problem that we won't be able to solve. Starting from COVID, all the way to, if quantum computing comes, we will also have a solution for that.
And that bonds also very well with what you said before with the obsolescence of the cars, because if you have cars that only have a lifespan of 3 years, you can easily introduce quantum processors and so on, which you would need then in order to have these new software algorithms running. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So one question from the audience is coming to the ISO 21434 standard that you already mentioned. So what fascinates me always in the automotive world is that they are really using standards. And it's also, from what you explained, with lots of OEMs, heterogeneous systems that are getting created and put together, it makes a lot of sense to have standards, because this might be the only way to reproduce something that has a certain quality level there. So the question is, what do you think about this ISO 21434, and if its application is sufficient to manage automotive cybersecurity?
It is a great start. We had nothing. We had no standard. The legislators didn't have anything to point toward. Now we have something. So it's a great start. However, it's never sufficient. Nothing is sufficient in cybersecurity. But it is so good to have something like this. It's hard. Like, we failed when we were doing research. We failed to push our research product to series development, series production, because there was no market. So there is regulation needed. Without regulation, no industry has ever implemented something that they don't need to. It's an extra cost for them. So it will go from their budget, from their profit, from their shareholders' profit. So they will not spend that money unless they have to.
Can you say in a few words what the ISO 21434 is regulating?
Great question. It is not regulating, it's the standard which regulators can point toward. So the standard is really a parallel of the ISO 26262 that we had for a long time in for safety. And the clever thing is they really try to do it in a way so that it doesn't contradict, theoretically, it doesn't contradict with the existing process landscape. And it is, as far as I know, this is the first time a joint effort by SAE, Society of American Engineers, and ISO together. So it's called the ISO/SAE 21434. Now, before ISO 21434, there was a guideline from SAE. So this guideline was taken as an input for this standard, and this standard is the cybersecurity, the standard for road vehicle cybersecurity engineering. So the standard covers from cybersecurity management, cybersecurity culture, cybersecurity process, then cybersecurity conceptualization, goal definition, requirement engineering, architecture, all the way to validation, testing, and decommissioning. Although the current draft, the decommission, there's not much in it. Decommissioning and everything is included in this standard. The limitation of this standard is it does not even mention the word autonomous vehicle. So it also does not talk about what level of automation, like we have SAE level 1, level 2, level 3, which level, what is possible. But the good thing about the standard is we have a defined CAL level, cybersecurity assurance level. So we can categorize cybersecurity, which is a parallel to the ASIL, the integrity level of safety integrity level of automotive that we have from ISO 26262. So there are a lot of good things in the standard. It's very well written. I really like the examples given in the standard. The examples are really taken from, like, they're talking about ECUs that you can that it's really practical. And one great thing is we have the V model, we have the ISO 26262 standard, and they try to kind of like make it in a way that harmonization will be possible. There are some critics to this standard saying that we should have really mentioned the automation level, SAE automation level 1, level 2, level 3. You know, not all those levels will have same kind of cybersecurity requirement. Well, I mean, we will definitely have different versions of the standard, but this is really important to get started, and this is a great start.
Well, very, very good, very nice. Thank you very much for all these details. Another question from the audience is, what can I, as an owner of a car, do to increase its security under the light of over-the-air updates, autonomous driving, and so on? Are there any tips that you can give to end users, what they can do?
Great question. So as an user, it depends what car you're using. The most vulnerable cars are the cars which has a CAN interface, relatively more modern, like 2010, 2012 CAN, and all those old OBD2 port and no encryption. Those are really the easiest one to get into. So in my advice would be, if you're one of those where there is no encryption, how do you know? You just have to look at the history of the car in some forums or something. Then do not connect any mobile devices. I mean, keep it as unconnected as possible, because it's your car. You're going to drive it for another 10 years, 5 years. I don't know how many. There's nothing you can do about it. It is how it is. Connectivity, limiting the connectivity is a good idea. The cars that you're buying today, you there are some security mechanisms with that, and as long as you are not the most vulnerable spot for your vehicle is when you're sending it to the garage, these days. So they can inject a malware there. If your connectivity can definitely, there's not much you can do about it. You have to be connected, but when you go to the garage. So when you're going to the garage, make sure you go to a trusted garage for your updates and all those. That's what I can say. And I think today there is not much tool in the market. This is again an opportunity for those who want to get into business. There is not a vulnerability scanner for a car. That could be one. That can be something that you can bring in the market. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much for the question, Arthur. Next question from the audience is, what are the current research challenges in automotive cybersecurity? Also, what should be addressed? What are the big open issues for you for the moment?
There are a ton of them. Now, I'm kind of like think twice to say it's a research issue in front of Mark and Mark's community, because you guys are from the university, and what looks like a research problem to us, probably not at all a research problem to you guys. So with that in mind, please take it with some grain of salt. If you don't think it's research, I respect it. I understand it. For you, only Fermat's last theorem is research. Probably everything else is applied research. So one of the thing is intrusion detection. There's companies, for example, Agos was bought by $500 million because they had an intrusion detection system. To the best of my knowledge, this hasn't gone to series production because the infrastructure is not built for that. So if you can find a way to fit in an intrusion detection system in the current infrastructure, probably with adaptive AutoSAR, I think this is a great opportunity. Second is, again, these are not pure research problem. The CAN bus itself was not built with security in mind. It was built with it's like a broadcasting system. Everybody's talking, and whoever has the right, whoever sees that, hey, this one, and everybody can read also, whoever sees, okay, this is the right one for me, this is the right CAN ID, and consumes it. It's very basic, right? If you can find a clever way to secure CAN bus without encryption costs, CAN bus is it gets congested very, very easily. If you can find a way to secure the system without really having to change the CAN infrastructure, because automotive industry, once they invest billions in a certain protocol, it takes time. CAN is going to be there with us for a long time. We will move to Ethernet eventually, but CAN is going to be there. That's an opportunity for you. You got to find out. I know companies, some Israeli startups, they have some clever ways, but that's not the only. And I'm not allowed to say what were their clever ways, because we have NDAs, and this is probably patented. I don't know, but I could even think of there could be some other ways, smart ways to protect the data without having to encrypt. Remember in CAN bus, if you have to encrypt, this is too much. Without encryption, how can you make sure that a hacker cannot get access to it? How can you block the doors for the hackers? Some other clever mechanism is a good way. So there's another research that actually, this is from another Fraunhofer Institute. They got in touch with us. Is when a car will be communicating with another vehicle, how do you know it's not an attack? How can you have a protocol that ensures that this is not malicious? So there are a lot of these research, or applied research to be more precise, in this community, applied research problems out there that needs to be solved, and there is probably a business potential also behind these things.
Very good. Thank you very much. And the last question, as the time evolved, and spanning the bow back to your presentation and the leadership principles you put in. So how do leadership principles and cybersecurity relate?
Great question. How do cybersecurity and leadership principle relate? So anything, I mean, cybersecurity and leadership, I'll be very specific here. There's nothing in this world you can do alone today, right? So there was this example I gave, which was I didn't show it today in my slides. There is this archaeologist found a 23,000 years old weapon in the hills of Latin America, which looks exactly like a mouse, something that you can hold in your hand. It's a stone piece. It's a weapon that you use to carry in your palm. That's what we do. We carry a cell phone or a mouse in our palm, and they used to throw it this like a little bit pointed. So there's a difference between that thing and the mouse that we use today. That weapon, the ancient weapon, could be crafted by one single person taking stone from the nature, right? So one person could work. I was kind of like a personality, like a one-man band, I was like a solo runner all my life, right? I didn't have leadership, but there's nothing in this world you can do without people. This mouse, there's not a single person out there, unlike that 23,000 years back, who could single-handedly craft a weapon. There's not a single person in the world who can say that I can build a mouse by myself. Probably there is not a single company who can say without external suppliers, we can build a mouse. And it's not even an exaggeration in case of automotive, when there are 3,000 companies involved. There's not even a country that can say we can build a car without the global supply chain. COVID has taught us, like, now we have a problem that from China, there's like 53 weeks of lead time for a component. So now we know how dependent we are in the global supply chain. So be it cybersecurity, be it whatever, if you cannot lead people, if you cannot show the vision in a direction, if you cannot interact with people, nothing is going to work in this world. And that's where I think cybersecurity and everything and leadership comes together.
Very good. So great. So big thank you in representing the entire audience that we can unluckily not see today. So what I liked especially about the presentation was that we had a large spectrum of your expertise, from leading a company, making money with it, investing in ideas and so on, to your expertise in the security field and so on. And so it was really covering a lot of aspects of security and businesses today. And this is perfect, because cybersecurity is nothing that you can look at in an isolated way, but everything has to play together when it comes to cybersecurity. So thank you very much. It was a great talk, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. And I'm sure, as you always said, if people have more questions for you, you will find Hasan on the internet over all the channels that you can think about, and he'll be happy when you get in contact. And
I would
also join his podcast and so on, because he has lots of more things, also technology bits. He has weekly or daily updates on LinkedIn and so on. So he's a very interesting person to follow.
Thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate it having me here. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for listening or watching. And I loved your questions. Like Mark said, the best thing would be if you ever write me to tell me what, if you found anything useful, or even if you have disagreed with me. I love disagreement. I love criticism as well. So if you would get in touch with me, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much again, Mark, for having me. Thank you for listening. Perfect.
And the cybersecurity, your monthly cybersecurity series continues. So in 1 month, we have another exciting talk. So we'll have Karl Dennis from the AG Kritis, which is a German association that takes care of securing infrastructures, helping companies and so on. So he'll tell us much more about it. So he will be talking about resilience for critical infrastructures, a volunteer cyber brigade. So you will see the trailer of the upcoming event, and thanks for joining today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share with your friends the information. The more audience we have, the more lively is the discussion. And so if you liked it, subscribe to the channel, join us in 1 month, and enjoy the summer. See you all. Bye-bye.
Our critical infrastructures, such as the power grid, are highly dependent on automation, and significant cyber incidents are going to require a sizable number of experts to effectively respond to outages. I'm going to present our concept for a voluntary cyber brigade of trained experts to support first-line response units in a crisis affecting critical service delivery to the population. Also, I will emphasize why we believe this must be a civilian organization to provide best support at large and maintain non-combating status.
Cher cybercéanie, pôle d'excellence région Bretagne. Au revoir et à la prochaine.